Roots of the Science podcast with your girl, Anne with an E. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Root of the Science podcast with your girl, Anne with an E. If you are new here, welcome. It's always so lovely to have new listeners. And if you are returning, goodness me, I love you guys. So thank you so much for tuning in. As always, a friendly reminder that you can subscribe if you listen to this podcast on Spotify or on Apple Podcast or even Google, that you know when a new podcast comes through, and make sure that you like and follow this podcast on Instagram and Twitter at The Root of the Sci Pod, or on Facebook at The Root of the Science Podcast. Now, let's get into today's episode. My guest today is Yannick Agbana from Togo, but currently based in Nigeria. In this episode, we learned that he did not always know that science was a route that he wanted to take, but after some consultation, he realized he wanted to become a doctor. Although that did not work out, he however stayed in the medical field by pursuing an undergraduate degree in biomedical science in Togo. Yannick talks us through the rest of his academic journey that involves pursuing his first master's degree in China. Currently, he's pursuing his second master's, yes, number 2, in medicinal plant research and drug development in Nigeria. He tells us briefly about this research and what he intends to do. Finally, we chat about the importance of researchers upskilling themselves by attending conferences and workshops, and the pros and cons of this virtual world that we're currently living in. Tune in as we hear about all of this and, of course, so much more. Let's go. Hi, Yannick. Welcome to the show.
Oh, and thank you very much.
It's such a pleasure to have you. I'm really excited to hear more about you and everything that you do. So first things first, before we get into your interview, can you just give us a brief introduction? Who is Yannick? Where you're from? Where you're currently based? And just in brief, what are you currently doing?
All right. So thank you very much, Anne, for this opportunity. Good. I'm from Togo. So I'm a Togolese, a little country in the west part of Africa. I'm a Christian, and I'm the first of 3 in our family. So Yannick did his first degree in biomedical laboratory science, and I did also a first master's degree in biochemistry and molecular biology. And currently, I'm also doing a master's degree, a second one in medicinal plant research and drug development.
Wow, that's so interesting. Thank you so much for that introduction. But, I can't wait to hear more about your 2 masters and everything that you do. But before we get into all of that, we have to get to know you away from the sciences. So you're a pretty active guy. You love to play soccer. And interestingly, this part I found the most interesting is that you do some dancing, some salsa dancing. That's pretty awesome. Can you tell us more about that?
All right. So, yes, that's true. I play football and I dance salsa. I must confess that I'm not a fanatic. I know that a lot of my friends, fanatic for the football. I just play times to times. I can play times to times, not like every day or every particular regularly. For the salsa dance, yes, I'm passionate about the salsa dance. I really like it. I started learning how to dance salsa when I started my first degree. During my first degree, or I think by the end of my first degree. So I liked the dance since, but I didn't get the opportunity to learn. So by the end of my first degree, so I subscribed in a group, Salsa Lume. That's the name of the group in my country at that time. So I subscribed to the group to learn the dance, actually. So,
wow, that's so great. So does this mean that you are you do competitions as well, or is it just for fun?
Okay, thank you, Anne. I get what you mean, but I might say that I don't really do it for competition. just for fun. It's just for fun. It's just for fun. Yeah, I think the dance also is kind of sport. So that's it. I don't really do it for like competition and all those things. But when you are practicing something and you get used to it, and it comes to things like competition, as you mentioned, yeah, why not? We can really go for it, and that's it.
All right. So Yannick, the scientist and the salsa dancer. That's something we have. It's a pity this is not a video thing. Would have asked you to do like 1, 2, 1, 2.
Exactly.
Oh,
that's when they are actually teaching the basic steps. I think so. Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, fantastic. No, one day when this thing goes big and it's live, we'll bring you on and you will show us some of those.
All right. All right. No problem.
Yeah. Okay. So Yannick, it's been so interesting to hear you away from the sciences and your other interests. But I think it's then important for us to understand how you actually got into the science. Why science? Was it always something that you knew you were going to do, or was it something that sort of developed later on in life?
Well, I can't say that I knew from inception that I will embrace science. I cannot say that. So when I was, I think in college, in the education system of my country, we have the primary school. We have, after the primary school, we have what we call college before high school, and then university. So when I was in high school, the last class not high school, I mean college, the last class of college, we needed to pass an exam so that you can upgrade to a high school. So before that, we got the visit of one of the friends of my bigger brother, and he was that time asking me how things were going about the exam. So I got to explain him about how things were going. Then he asked me what I was intending to do in high school, because in high school we have what we call series. So we have different series. You have the science series, and you have the arts and later series. So he was curious to know whether I'm going for science or I'm going for letters. By that time, I must confess, I didn't really know what I was going to do, but I said that I didn't want to embrace science. So at that time, when you talk about science, they used to, when you talk about science, you are talking about mathematics and physics, biology, and all those stuffs. And I say we used to hear that science is difficult. So we had that mentality that science is difficult. So just based on that, we were like, we don't want to embrace science, and we prefer to go for arts, languages, and all those stuffs. So that time, and he asked me whether I know what I wanted to become. When we are young. When we were younger, we were small and all those stuff, our elders used to ask those kind of questions. So when I said that I wanted to embrace arts, he said, what did I want to become? I said, I don't know. I don't know for now. I said, I don't know for now. Yeah. So he said, if you don't know what you want to become, I advise you not to go for arts. It's better you go for sciences. So from that day, I made up my mind that whatever the situation, I will do sciences in high school. So that's how I started my high school doing science. For the series that I chose. So that was the series CD. We call it CD in our French system. So it was about mathematics, physics, and biology. That's how I started doing my first steps into science, if I can say it like that. So from that, I studied mathematics, physics, and biology, and all those other stuffs in high school, and I ended up even accepting to pursue mathematics and physics during high school. After the first year, for the second and third year, so I did mathematics and physics. So by that time now in high school, we got to start thinking about what are you really passionate about? What do you want to become? What was your passion? What was your purpose? What do you want to give people around you? All those stuff. So that time I wanted to become a medical doctor.
Like we all did.
Yeah, so I wanted to become a medical doctor, and so that's how we continue with the sciences in high school. So after my baccalaureate, after the high school now, for the university, for the first degrees. So somehow I ended up not going for the medical school, but I still chose something that was in health, related to health sciences, which is the biomedical laboratory science. So I think that's how I embrace science.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. And, I think most of us can relate to that sort of story where when you are trying to decide, because you're still young, it's very hard to know exactly what I want.
Yes.
And sometimes I always say, why do they tell like 17, 16 or 18-year-olds they need to know what they're doing with their life for the next 50 years? It's great pressure. But I mean, typical, most of us, obviously,
Exactly.
most African kids, we always fall into the trap of wanting to be a doctor. So it's quite interesting, that many of us can relate story. Obviously, like you said, that didn't happen. You then decided, okay, but I might not be a medical doctor. I'm going to still be in the medical route. So can you talk us through that in terms of your first degree, and then also journey to us up until sort of where you are now? So did you do your first degree in your home country, or did you go abroad to go and study as well?
Well, so I did my first degree in my country, the biomedical laboratory science. I did it in my country, actually. So I finished my degrees that times. And after that, after around 1 year, I got that scholarship for my first master's degree, the master's in biochemistry and molecular biology, which I did in China, actually, in Kunming Medical University.
Wow. Okay, that's so interesting. That's okay. Wow. So you went abroad to go and study in China. How long were you studying there for? And how was that experience for you, coming from a French-speaking place and also, of course, your native languages, to now moving into this, foreign, culturally, it's a completely foreign place. How was that experience for you?
All right. So I spent 3.5 years in China because actually most of the master's studies, master's degree, master's program in China, most of them, I don't say every master's program are like that, but most of them are for 3 years. 3 years during which you did at least one semester for your coursework, and you spend the other 2 years and half of the semester for your research purposes. So yeah, I did 3 years and half years there.
Mm-hmm. And how was that experience for you?
Yeah, well, it was fine. It was fine. So I must confess that things were not necessary as we thought before we went there, but we got to adapt ourselves to the current situation that was in place. We got to adapt, actually. We got to adapt to the situations which were in place there in China. But at the end, it was a very interesting experience. I must also confess that I started developing my passion for research during my master's degree in China. Yeah, I must say that also. In summary, it was a very nice experience over there. So okay, well, you also talked about the language. Sure, there was that barrier. In fact, it was the main, I must say, the main problem of most of us international students, especially those who were from French-speaking countries and all those stuff, which are not from, English-speaking countries. Yeah, so it was a real challenge, and it's also important to note that the language that they usually use in China is Chinese, as we all know. So life was a little bit tricky for us, because you cannot talk with people around you. And that's also how we got to learn the language, their language, so that we can discuss fluently with people around us. So as we all know, difficulties will be around the corner at every stages, but we need to adapt in every situations.
Yes, of course, there are going to be difficulties in every single situation. And I think in most cases for international students abroad, there's always that. But I think you brought up a very good point that, for example, in China, especially from students who are coming from a non-English speaking countries, it must be extra hard. But kudos to, for you guys for learning the language. I was actually going to ask you next, did you end up learning? So I really am so impressed that you immersed yourself, with the culture properly. And, like you said, the challenges were there, but you managed to swim through it. And I'm sure it was a success. So then you then went on, currently rather, you are actually pursuing your second master's degree, and it's in medicinal plant research and drug development.
Exactly.
So before we get into it, I'm going to ask you a very obvious question, or maybe not so obvious, but why another master's? Why not, why not do the PhD? Or so what made you do the second master's before you tell us more about what you're currently doing?
I think there are different reasons, there are different reasons. So at the end of my master's degrees there, even before the end, so I eventually applied for the PhD degrees. And because I was at ease in the lab I was working in with my supervisor, things were definitely by the end going very well between us. So actually, I decided just to apply to that particular university that time, in my university that time. So, but actually there was a rule. I was on the Chinese government scholarship. I was on that scholarship that time. But there is a rule for that scholarship, actually. The rule states that you cannot get continually, a scholarship. If, for example, when I was doing my master's and I was on that scholarship, I must finish that scholarship. I must finish that program, leave the country, or maybe not necessarily leave the country, but you will stop the scholarship. You go for some one year, and then you can apply again for that scholarship. But because I was supported by my supervisor that time, so I I was confident that despite the rule, I will get the scholarship actually. So I ended up applying for just that school. I didn't even try another schools and another programs, another for the PhD. So at the end, I didn't get the scholarship. I didn't get the scholarship. But then we were graduated for that time, and I was still in the lab working with my supervisor that time. And then I applied. I saw this actually. Yeah, I saw this program, and I was interested. In the program. So I said, let me apply for this program first, and let's see what actually will happen. Because so I must explain that it was not only the fact that I didn't get the scholarship, but on a second thought, I actually liked and this program actually. I was interested in the drug development from the natural products. As a matter of fact, during my first degree, actually, I worked on something like that. Not necessarily drug development, but I worked on a component of a natural products, plant-based. So let me put it like that, because we are still working on the paper now. So I worked on a plant like that, so to check some of the activities. So I was interested. Now that I know, how to use the component and going around all those things. Now I was interested to know how to get the component from the raw materials and how to follow the drug development pipeline, and at the end get a drug. So when I saw the program, this current program I'm doing, I was interested. I was like, okay, I can actually go to that place and learn about all those stuff. So that's how I get to start this program.
I think it's also very important that you brought it up, that there were some of these things, these challenges that were sort of beyond your control. As much as you might have wanted to stay and to do your PhD, etc. But some of these things happen for a reason. So now tell us more about an overview of what exactly you're doing currently now, and also just why is it so important?
Actually, right now, I must say, with my supervisor, actually, we are still working on, to develop the research we are gonna work on, and but I can give the overview and explain a little bit what we are trying to do, what we want to do actually. So, all right. So actually, with my supervisor, we want to investigate some activity, namely anti-cancer activity, different selected plants from a particular family of plants, Verbenaceae. So we will select those plants, we will extract, we will do some extractions, and actually we are interested in what we call peptides. So we want to extract those peptides from the selected plants, and then we will eventually investigate the anti-cancer effects of those peptides. We want to see whether or not those peptides can actually impede the growth of cancer cells. So that's in summary what we are trying to do actually.
Okay. Yannick, for somebody who is unfamiliar, what are peptides?
Well, peptides are a fragment of proteins. Let me put it like this. So we know that in the plant we have different components. We have different components. Let me put it like that. chain metabolites. And those peptides actually are one of those components. So we are interested in those in that particular component of the plant that they have shown some activities, very good activities in terms of anti-cancer properties and different other properties, medicinal properties, actually. So we are interested in that, in those actually components. That's what I can say about it.
No, thank you so much for that breakdown. It's still quite interesting. And I think, like you said, that you're still sort of developing this concept, but it's a very exciting concept, in this type. So just to give everybody an overview, you are now based in Nigeria, right? Where you're doing your master's.
Yes, exactly. So I'm based in Nigeria, in University of Ibadan. But I mainly belongs to Pan-African University Life and Earth Sciences Institute. So I will take this opportunity to talk a little bit about the Pan-African University for those maybe who don't know about the university. So Pan-African University is the university installed by the African Union. They have different institutes around the globe. Around Africa. We have one in Nigeria here. That's Paulesi, which stands for the Pan-African University Life and Earth Sciences Institute. We have one in Kenya. That's POSTI. We have one in Algeria, one in Cameroon, and the other one in South Africa, but which has not launched for now.
Wow, that's so interesting. Didn't even know that this university existed. Okay, so how it works is that it's like you said that it's done by the African Union, but then you have host universities that host the students. It doesn't have its own official building.
Yes, actually, the different institutes are hosted by different renowned universities in those different countries. As I said, for Paulesi, is hosted by University of Ibadan, but it's not like they are dependent on University of Ibadan. They have their institute, they have their administration and all those stuff, right? That's the same for example, the institute in Kenya, POSTI. So POSTI is hosted by the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. The one in Algeria, if I'm right, is hosted by the one university in Temlek or something like that. So those different institutes are hosted by different universities, but they are working independently.
That is so brilliant, and I'm learning something new today. And what a lovely vision of I'm sure what the vision was to have this Pan-African university across the different countries, and like you said, at these very prestigious institutions in these countries. So wow, what an honor, I think, for you to be part of such.
Yes, sure. Yeah. You're right. I think it's a very great honor to be part of this program, this institute, and all those stuff.
No, definitely. And just to also speak more on that, Yannick, you are actually involved in terms of upskilling yourself and doing various conferences and courses, etc. So I wanted to ask you, it's a two-part question rather. So my question is, why do you think this is so important for scientists to do these sorts of things, to do conferences, to attend these workshops, and all of these things? Okay, maybe let's start there, and I'll ask you my second question.
Well, okay. I think is obviously important to participate in all those conferences and workshops. So I will just take my example and try to explain it. So for me, anytime that, first of all, for the workshops, I usually go to learn. Obviously, I used to go to learn. I used to go to upgrade myself, and all those stuff. For the conferences, when you go and you try to learn about from different people, from the scientists around the globe, if I can put it like that. So they are important. They are there. They are sources of, if I can say it like that, they are sources of resources. You resource yourself. You learn new things. You get new insights from people. There are actually what used to happen usually is that there are several research going on around the globe that are not necessarily published yet, and you don't know about them. But at the conferences, the scientists used to expose what they are working on currently, and you will get to learn about what's really going on, even if those research are not published yet. And even I must also add that from those conferences, you get new ideas. You might even get new ideas for your own research you are doing now. You might get some research gap from different presentations. Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. Apart from just gaining new ideas and learning what's there, the most obvious thing is creating those networks with different people. Hey, where you're able to meet so-and-so from this university or from this research institute, etc., or maybe even your future boss when you finish your degree. So these conferences or workshops have now obviously gone virtual. I'm going to ask you a very, it might be controversial, but do you like the virtual sessions? Of course, it made it easier for everybody to network. Or do you miss the in-person nature of these conferences?
Well, I might say that it has its pros and cons. Actually, I think so. For me, I prefer physical meetings where I can interact directly with people. Yeah, I think I prefer that. But the online conferences and all those stuff, I think they are also very good. They are even economic, if I can say so. And yeah, okay. So some people also explain it, the advantage, by giving reasons like for some people that are somehow shy, it also helped them to express themselves easily. Easily and express show their research and without feeling compromised by the public and all those stuff. But my take is I still prefer the physical meetings.
Oh, I'm there with you. I understand, like you said, that we all understand the pros and cons. Rather the pros of the digital side, but yeah, the physicality of it is obviously always really, really nice.
Yeah.
There's so many other pros of that as well. So Yannick, we've been having a really great chat, and it's as we can see, time is flying. You've given us sort of an overview of what you're currently doing, where you've come from, even your journeys abroad and your interactions, like upskilling yourself, etc. So I just wanted to ask you, as we are wrapping up, what are some of your final words of some of advice that you can give to somebody who aspires to follow in your footsteps, be it in science generally, or just in life as a whole, and some of the life lessons that you've learned so far?
All right. Thank you, Anne. Well, as I said before, my advice would be, I think the problem we used to have is when we encounter different obstacles in our life, in our daily life, in everything we are doing and all. So as I said before, my advice would be to accept challenges, and every time that we have any kind of challenge, our aim should be to overcome to those challenges, to adapt, not giving up. To give up should not be an option. So, and for anyone who is interested in the STEMs, I think the STEMs are there, and they are opened for everyone. And we might not have that idea of STEMs are difficult stuff and all those things. I used to say around me that there is nothing difficult, or better, everything is difficult, but it depends on the angle you take it from, and you're willing to overcome whatever difficulty you are facing. Yes, so that's it. So I really encourage anyone that interested in pursuing STEM to take it easy and embrace it. But I think I must also mention that the most important thing is to follow our passion. Yeah, as it is said, whenever we are doing what we love, is no more a burden for us, but it becomes a joy, everyday joy. So everyone is really encouraged. Thank you, Anne.
Thank you for those words of advice. I think you have inspired us and you have motivated, and I hope that whoever's listening, somebody can take those words and apply it into their own lives. And even if somebody is aspiring to get into STEM, they can take heed of that advice and, apply it. So thank you. And also just a big thank you for coming onto the show and for sharing your journey. I really had a great time chatting with you today.
Thank you very much, Anne. It's also my pleasure to be here with you and everyone that will be following us. And I also really enjoy chatting and sharing all those stuff with you guys. Thank you very much, Anne. And I really like what you are doing, the work you are doing. And I think by hearing from people on your podcast, we are really getting a lot of things. We are really learning, and really kudos for what you are doing. And thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much. It's honestly a pleasure to have this conversation with you. And also, it's always really the best thing for me is hearing from all of you. And with that being said, also the best thing is for everybody listening. So thank you so much for everybody who's tuned into today's episode. Until next time, it's your girl, Anne with an E. Goodbye.